making carbs for themselves. Photosynthetic just use autotrophs.
Albatross?
Consumers eat the producers. Consumers can be anywhere from tropic level 2 and up.
Hot.
They don't make their own food. They are heterotrophs. So these are things such as herbivores, carnivores, or omnivores. Herbivores eat plants, carnivores eat meat, and omnivores eat both. Scavengers eat chunks. Detritivores
Scavengers could eat dead animals.
That's what it is, eat chunks, so it's either of dead animals or whatever they find. Decomposers do digestion outside the cell and then absorb.
Aren't parasites a part of that? No, they're a decomposer,
not
aren't
part
they?
of decomposer. They can be. They're
their
probably
own thing,
more
right?
omnivorous or carnivore. Or they would be considered detrivores because they eat partially decomposed material. Okay, a food web is a complex diagram.
I'll show you
showing
my
all
food
the
web.
food chains. Ooh,
Are
Spider-Man.
Are food webs and food chains different?
No, they're the same thing. But really, when you look at it as like a whole ecosystem or whatever, it's more of a web than it is a chain. But you can connect it the same way. And you have tropic levels. And about 10% of energy gets transferred from each one. Bioaccumulation is what happens when chemical accumulates in the body over time.
Excuse me.
So her example was if you have a 1-year-old bass and that bass lives to be 12 years old and it's in the same stream, then whatever particle was in that stream that was like unhealthy or whatever, then it would pick up that mass or that unhealthy thing and that would build up. That's where you get bioaccumulation. Biomagnification is where one organism to another, just the amount of whatever that chemical is goes up higher in concentration. So say a worm has a certain amount of mercury in it, and then a fish eats that worm. Now that fish has biomagnified either whatever chemical that worm had in its body, and then it just goes on from there. Okay. The next thing on the list is reproduction strategy. We're getting ready to talk about asexual versus sexual.
That means sex, penis and vagina.
That's sexual. Asexual, you can just do it with yourself.
Teacher, is that there the part where I stick my fucking Peter in a woman's vagina?
No.
Is there a redneck in your class that sounds like that?
No.
I
I'm
wish.
probably the most redneck in there.
Should just walk in tomorrow and like dress like a redneck and just, hello boys, you want to chip my chewing tobacco? There's so many deer here.
Sexual selection. So
Spit on
there's two
their
different
shoes.
kinds. There's intersexual selection, and then there's intrasexual selection. Intersexual selection is between the two sexes, so male and female, and usually it's the male competing. They're like trying to impress the female. Now on intraspecific or intrasexual selection, it's between like a male and a male competing for the female.
I could go so far with these logs.
Microscopic orgasms. Anyway, intrasexual selection is interaction between the same species, but usually between like a male and a male competing for a female. So like buffalo, like a male buffalo will fight another male buffalo for a female. And that can also be through ornamentation like horns, territory, or harems, which...
Animals have harems?
Yeah. There's a type of chimpanzee that has harems. Some apes have harems as well. Alright, now we're going to talk about reproductive allocations.
Reproduction? Do I need to start screaming wildly like a chimp?
Yes.
Do chimps even scream when they have sex? The real questions with me. Okay, I didn't miss you.
Reproductive allocation. Our strategists equal, or our strategists and case strategists. Our strategists put off a large number of offspring, and a lot of them, they do that because a lot of them will die.
That means they fuck.
And
they fuck a lot.
No, it's not that. It's like fish. So they can produce 2,000 eggs or something like that. So all of those fish are not going to make it to adulthood.
Let me stop you right there, wild boy. Why can't they all live?
Because it's just how it happens.
This is anyway, this is 2019 or 2020. We are all equal. We all deserve to live equally, or I don't know.
What it is they have these large number of offspring, and then the parent just disappears. So there's no parental care.
What the? What am I doing? What the? What was that?
Strategist, on the other hand, they have a small number of offspring, and the parents actually stick around to protect the offspring. So there's like a low mortality rate as compared to our strategists with a high mortality rate.
I gotta think away, Riley. I gotta think away.
The next thing is niche partitioning.
Niche participation.
Niche partitioning is basically when a species will give up part of its niche to a same species so it avoids competition. Niche partitioning is when a species gives up part of its niche to another, or to the same species, and it adapts to like there's a certain finch that will give up the lower half of a tree to have the upper half of the tree
It'll give up its virginity.
just so it doesn't have to compete with that other bird for food and junk and for territory. It's just niche partitioning is a way to avoid competition. And character displacement is the behavioral or morphological adaptations of the species to allow it to specialize in a particular niche. So the finch, like I said, niche is a tree. So as long as it stays within the tree, it's fine. But if it goes anywhere else, it might die. So it will give up like a quarter of the tree to another finch. Keystone species is a species that if it dies or is removed from an environment, it will cause another species to go extinct or die. So examples are a sea star or gopher tortoises.
Whoa, I escalated down there really fast. Holy shit.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. Riley, you're still on stream. I can hear you beating off in the background. Quit digging with the logs, you fuckers.
Those are Dellas. I already got my laundry out of there. Yeah?
Are we back?
I have returned.
Riley, we have a problem.
What's your problem?
I think our base is compromised.
Why is that?
I can't gather logs without being attacked by Armsies and Grey Mutants.
We won't have to worry about that once you finish collecting logs.
I made up a new perimeter around our hut. I think we need to do that first, so we have at least a small perimeter that's bigger than a hut to go into.
It's like we're living in a prison, Garrett.
We're in IRL or in this game?
In the game. There's no escaping.
Big white men want your asshole, and that's just the way it breaks. So right now I'm getting as far away from camp as possible.
I am the camp.
Okay, Riley, I feel like you left and came back with a few less scruples.
I have studied so much zoology.
I am the zoo god.
I have opened a new path to enlightenment, Garrett.
I am able to make bump stocks just by thinking about it.
I am...
Our houseboat despawn?
Did it really?
I
Or
don't
did it
see
just
it
like
anymore.
float off?
Unless it doesn't have a icon. I thought it had an icon.
Damn. Alright, so now we're moving on to domains. There are 3 domains. Domain Bacteria, Domain Archaea, and Domain Eukarya. Domain Bacteria are prokaryotic, which means they're unicellular and have no cell organelles. And they are important decomposers and they're needed for nutrient cycling. Domain Archaea is prokaryotic as well, this includes extremophiles. And the domain eukarya, of course, eukarya meaning eukaryotic, meaning unicellular, and having nucleus and organoids. And there are 3 classic kingdoms that are still recognized. The 4th one is no longer supported. Plantae, fungi, and animalia. So their domain eukarya, but their phylum, excuse me, but they belong in their own little classifications. So monophyletic meaning contains only closely related organisms. Polyphyletic just means the opposite of that. Protista are no longer supported by evidence.
Dave Bautista?
Eukarya. So, and then we have the first rank, which is Euglenozoa, and they use something called flagella to get around. It's like a little, like on a sperm. Sperm have a flagella, and that's what they use to get around. Some are plant-like, which means they have chloroplasts, which also means that they do photosynthesis, which Volvox.
Photosynthesis.
Volvox meaning capital V and then underlined. And they are free-living in freshwater, and they do asexual and sexual reproduction.
Ooh, kinky.
So they can asexually reproduce through binary fission, and they can sexually reproduce by sending a male cell out into the world to find another cell to colonize. So and they form something called a daughter colony when they do that. And then the next thing is euglena, being capital E and then underlined. And they have chloroplasts as well as a stigma. And the stigma is what they use to find the light. They follow the light because they do photosynthesis as well as Volvox. Animal-like heterotrophs, such as trypanosoma. Trypanosoma is a parasitic infection that attacks blood cells. And the way that you get this is through a vector called tsetse fly. And don't worry, it's only in Africa. And it causes African sleeping sickness, which basically puts the person that's infected into a coma. And if they're not treated right, they can die eventually. Then there's also another one called trichonympha, and this lives in the guts of termites, and that's an obligate relationship because they break down the wood that the termites digest, and they release what the termites use for energy. Then you have supergroup 2, which is the amoebozoa, which are basically amoebas. And they are free-living, freshwater marine, and then there's some that live in the soil. And they are called, or they can be considered pseudopodia, and they can have a test or no test. And they have this thing called a lobopod, which is like an arm that comes off. And Amoeba proteus goes through phagocytosis, which is grabbing large particles from the environment and bringing them inside. And Amoeba proteus are what cause pandemics, like coronavirus. Then you have Diflugia, which has a test and mobile pod.
You mean the big cough?
The big cough? Is that what we're calling it now?
Apparently you're not allowed to say COVID or Corona on YouTube.
Really?
I don't know why.
Oh,
Because
oops.
it kills people. It's no. For fucking following me, freaks. Go away.
It's the big cough. My bad.
My big balls.
But I'm
Oh
talking
god, he followed me in the
scientifically,
water. I didn't think
so...
he'd follow me in the water.
I thought they died in the water.
Yeah, he went in a little bit, but he quit.
Okay, so then we have supergroup Rhizaria, which is supergroup 3. And these, some have axopodia, which are spines that come out. And there's one that's called the radiolarian that has these that come out the side, and it like rolls around and impales things. And it has a siliceous test, which is silicone. Radiolarian has a shell made of silicone. And some of them have net-like pseudopods, which are called reticulopods.
Called Rafiki pods?
Rafiki pods.
Tide pods?
Tide pods? Tide challenge? Then there's another one called foraminifera.
Oh no, dongus. Excuse me.
And foraminiferans have a calcium carbonate test, not silicone. So they have a calcareous. Foraminiferen is calcareous. Radiolarian is siliceous. So radiolarian, silicone, foraminiferen, calcium. Now we have supergroup 4, and these ones are classified under the phylum of Coeliophora. And they get around by using cilia. And some use, or cilia also called, or can also form cirri, which are fused cilia. Means they're sessile. And they can do sexual and asexual reproduction through binary fission and conjugation. Conjugation lines up longitudinally, so side by side. Binary fission usually is horizontal and splits off and creates a copy. And then some, they use their cilia for feeding, and some, they have a cytostome, which is a cell mouth or an oral groove, for which they use to get food.
Hey girl, how's that oral mouth treat you?
How's that oral groove? Now, the examples of ones that have this are paramecium, stentors, vorticellas, and didinium, which they all look really weird, and I don't want to look at the pictures. Hopefully I don't have to know what they look like on the test. Didinium has a proboscis, vorticella are stalks,
My mother is
stentor
going
is
crazy.
trumpet shaped, and paramecium are little bitty.
This paramecium?
Paramecium have contractile vacuoles. There, vacuoles. Then there are ones called euplotes or euplotes, and they have cirri, and they creep along substrate, which is like leaves and stuff. Then you have dinoflagellates, and dinoflagellates are photoautotrophs, which means they do photosynthesis to make food. And you can tell it's a dinoflagellate because it's red in color. And if you've ever seen dinoflagellates on the water, it's like a red algae on top. And basically, it can kill fish, or if you eat the fish that are in the water, sometimes if it's high enough concentration, it can either make you really sick or kill you. Zooxanthellae are mutualism with other protozoa like sea anemones, clams, and stony corals. So zooxanthellae is related to corals.
Haha, you drowned, bitch. Fuck you.
Number 5 is phylum Apicomplexa, which is endoparasites of a variety of animals, and they reproduce through multiple fission. Plasmodium is an example, and Plasmodium can cause malaria.
Ooga ooga!
And the way you get that is through the vector of a female Anopheles mosquito. And then the last one that we have is Toxoplasma gondii.
Gandhi?
Yeah, Toxoplasma gondii. So basically this happens in cat
Come here,
feces.
bish. Come here, bish.
So
You're a big
if
boy. I don't want to fight you.
If a person leaves cat feces
It's me.
like, sitting for a long time, a person can contract toxoplasma or toxoplasmosis, and it mostly affects like pregnant women or infants or older people.
Sir, you say for useless people.
The primary host is the cat, and the secondary hosts are rats. The Toxoplasmodia will grab onto, like, the rat will get a hold of the Toxoplasma somehow, and it can transfer it to people or to other things. Alright, so we're through that.
Let me uncrouch. Let me run.
Be free. Okay, so now we're on to looking at the cell.
Why are they all coming over here? I cut down a few trees and went to sleep.
So the domain of all of these is Eukarya.
Ooh, they're fighting. Kick his ass. Kick their ass.
Volvox is a circle with a bunch of little circles in it. Euglena is bigger looking paramecium with a contractile vacuole. Trypanosoma is little worm-like.
You guys make it really hard to do my job here.
Trichonympha is like a worm-like thing with a bunch of cilia. Amoeba, I don't know what an amoeba looks like.
Ah!
Diflugia.
How the fuck?
Has a...
What? Riley, nowhere's safe, Riley.
Radiolaren has a proboscis, kind of. And it has a siliceous test. And a foraminifera looks kind of like a shell, and it has a calcareous test. Dinoflagellate.
Riley, nowhere's safe.
Kind of like a Y, and it causes red tides, so I know what that one is. Then you have Paramecium, which has an oral groove and is like a smaller version of whatever the other one was. It's a smaller version of it's basically a smaller version of Euglena. And binary fission is opposite, or like the same, but it's horizontal. Conjugation is longitudinal splitting. Vorticella is it's fine like and clusters. Stentor is trumpet shaped. Yeah.
Riley, I think we're successfully at war with these guys.
And Didinium has a proboscis.
I am in Cannibalville, I should not be here.
Okay. I think I've gone over just about everything I need for this. I'll look over it again before I go to bed. I'll also read through the study guide again just to make sure I've got my bearings. Oh, I'm gonna do my best on this exam. Wish me luck, everybody.
I mean, you're joining now?
I mean, I can.
Help me fight.
Go get a drink me first.
Help me fucking complete our fortress so I don't get fucking raped every time.
I say we should invest in making a bunch of traps outside the...
We just need the walls built and then we should be good.
Yeah, but then remember we have to adventure outside of it.
Yeah, we just go out the door.
Alright, give me a minute. I'm gonna be right back.